Okay, so in this, I'm going to be talking to you about satire cartoons and political cartoons and how we deconstruct them. So the five things that we look for in when we look at satire and political cartoons are hyperbole, analogy, irony, labeling, and symbolism, or hails. That's a quick way to understand that or remember it. The questions that we ask ourselves are: what is the cartoon portraying? What is the cartoon's opinion on the issue? What other opinions could there be on the issue? Is it persuasive? Is it trying to convince you of something? Why do you think that? Why not? And what other techniques could be used to make this cartoon more persuasive? So when we look at things, we need to be critical. And those are the questions that we ask to assist in that process. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through really quickly each of the section of hails, so hyperbole, analogy, irony, labeling, symbolism. And if you want to pause and copy down the information before listening to me explain it, or go back, that's completely up to you. Hyperbole. So hyperbole is exaggeration. And often cartoonists will use exaggeration to let you know if it's talking about a person or an idea. So the cartoon that's there as an example is talking about Julia Gillard's physical appearance, because when she was Prime Minister, a lot of people would comment on her physical appearance, particularly the way she dressed and the shape of her nose. So we can see the cartoon is playing on that, and we can very clearly see that's her, because it's a very distinctive shape the cartoonist would use to imitate her and let the audience know exactly who they're talking about. So this cartoon says, does my nose look big in this? Obviously it has an exaggerated nose. No one's nose is that size. And it's talking about her fashion, which is what people were commenting on. So the cartoonist is giving their opinion on that. Analogy. So when you make an analogy, you are comparing two different things. And often it's because those two things either have a similar outcome, or you're highlighting how ridiculous something is. So in this cartoon, our education system, we have a lineup of different animals, from a bird to a monkey to a penguin to an elephant to a fish to a seal to a dog. And we have them lined up in front of a man sitting at a desk, in the same way that a teacher will sometimes sit at a desk and talk. I know I do occasionally. For a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. So if we look at that, it's an analogy of the way in which, in some instances, we ask for the same result from every student, despite the fact that that might not actually be fair. For example, the monkey, who's really good at climbing trees, is going to be great, but the fish has absolutely no chance. So by making this analogy, it's actually using an analogy to talk about the way in which we assess, and hyperbole to make its point. So it's being exaggerated. We have irony, where we're looking at the difference in ways things can be looked at. Often irony relies on making fun of or observing how hypocritical things can be. So for example, in this cartoon, we have a building with people dying, being blown up. And in one frame, it's illegal. It says illegal. The other one says legal. And the only difference is who's actually blowing it up. When it's just a man with a bandana around their face, it's terrorism. But if it's planes from a government, it's the military. So we have the same outcome, but we actually have two different perspectives. And so there's a clear comment on the way in which we look at a situation. We have labeling. So labeling is where you use a symbol, or you use dialogue, or you use specific words to tell the audience exactly who you're talking to or talking about. So in this example, it's talking about a genocide, and we know that because it says genocide. It's someone exclaiming it because of the exclamation mark. And we also have a flag in the shape of a rug that's being swept under. So labeling is there to help your audience know exactly what you're talking about. So I know that that is a Turkish flag, and it's talking about a genocide that's been swept under the rug, or when we say swept under the rug, we mean forgotten, we mean ignored. Okay? And because we know this because it's using the next point, symbolism. It's when symbols act to stand for a larger concept or idea. So if we go back to this last slide, the bones of people are being swept under the rug, but it's not a literal thing that happens. No one literally sweeps bones under a rug, but the idea is it's being ignored. If you're sweeping things under the rug, that is an aphorism that says that, we are not dealing with this right now, or we're not addressing this right now. So what I'm going to get you to do is we're going to look at a cartoon and you're going to answer some questions. So here is a cartoon about the boat people. On one side of the frame, we have Indigenous people saying, "We will decide who comes into this country and the circumstances in which they come." And then we have people who look like they're colonists or the first settlers or invaders said, but that's inhumane, and they're stuck on the boat. Clearly, this is talking about refugees, and if we look at this little man, his physical appearance is very similar to a former Prime Minister, Mr. John Howard. So what I want you to do is to look at this image, pause so you can really take your time, and answer the questions. Is there an example of exaggeration? Is there an analogy? What's being compared? The irony that is being expressed. What's the opinion of the cartoonist? What's being labeled? And is there symbolism? Pause now so you can answer these questions, and then I'm going to go through some of the answers. I'm going to make the assumption that you paused, and so, sorry. I'm going to make the assumption you paused, so I'm going to go through. Is there exaggeration? Yes, we have character features, so I know because obviously I grew up when John Howard was the Prime Minister, so I saw a lot of these cartoons. I know that that's John Howard, okay, because of the eyebrows, because of the shape of the face, and how short he is. The analogy is the arrival of First Fleet with the boat people of today. So it's making a comparison between refugees coming by boat and the first settlers or the first invaders coming by boat. The irony is the first white Australians were boat people, and now we are passing laws preventing other boat people coming in. The labels, so the insertion of speech, assists the reader's understanding of the text, and the symbols, Aboriginal attitudes reflect many of the attitudes of today's white people. So if you got any of those elements, congratulations, you've answered that quite correctly. What I want you to do is I'm going to show you another one, you're going to answer those, and you're going to show me or your teacher, depending on if you're in another class, you're going to show them your response to this, and then you have to go and find your own and annotate it in the same way. So the next one you're going to look at is, let's go with this one, because I really enjoy this one. So take a look, answer the questions, write them in your book, and then you need to find your own satire article.